Let's talk about one of my favorite 80s slashers, and it's one that people do really love, and it's one of the most wackiest, most quirkiest, like, slasher I've seen from the 80s, which is Sleepaway Camp. Now, this franchise, I'm going to review them all, and I'm eventually going to find Return to Sleepaway Camp, which I actually haven't seen. Even though I've heard it's terrible, I'm still going to watch it just to say I've watched it. Even if it's bad, just one time at least I'll just say I watched it, but Sleepaway Camp is a funny franchise because we've got this first movie, and then we've got Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, which has a different actress for the main character. And then we've got Return to Sleepaway Camp, which is a sequel to the first one and ignores 2 and 3, but apparently is really bad. So this is a franchise where we've only got, and we've got this, and we had Sleepaway Camp 4 The Survivor, which never even made it past, like, background filming for it, and then like that's it, and they literally had nothing else for it. And so it's been a franchise where it's never been, in terms of like in the modern like in terms of, it's a cult movie. It's not gonna be a movie that a lot of people know that are outside of like big horror circles, but maybe sometimes people do. It surprises me sometimes I hear people who aren't really into horror and have heard of this, but usually it's one of those franchises where it's only in like a horror circle. It's not really something that stays outside of horror groups. Like it's one of those cult movies, and I'm totally fine with that because this movie is fucking awesome. It's one of my favorite slashers. This one and the second one, and this one I've got a lot to talk about for all three of these. So I'm gonna go from like the beginning of the movie till the end, like just talk about things I like and really don't dislike in this movie. I really love everything about this movie. It's got a great sense of humor and a great sense of style and great kills. So overall, I really enjoy it. But starting out, the opening music to this is really fucking creepy. Like, it actually works really well. You've got just, like, it's just black on screen, and then the title Sleepaway Camp pops up, and then there's this big blaring music, which is really creepy. And it'll be used in the end of the movie, that blaring music, but it works really well. It actually is really creepy. And then they've got all the credits showing while it's around Camp Arawak, the location in the movie. And just showing names of people involved in the movie, but it's got, while it's showing parts of the camp, it just has voices. And it's kind of creepy, but it's just really weird. And it's creepy because of the score and just how blaring it is and how creepy it sounds. Even though the creepiness works with the campiness of this movie, the campiness is great. So it kind of fits in the beginning credits where like it's people saying dumb things like while the scary music's playing. I feel like Robert Hiltzik, who directed this, was gearing you up for like, this is going to be a different weird like movie, a weird slasher. And he made a different slasher than most of the slasher movies in the 80s. This one was different, but it was also the same too, because it is a slasher, but it's got an ending that I'm gonna just say at the end. I won't spoil it yet, but most people know that ending. I knew it before I even saw the movie years ago, so, which sucks, because if I saw that ending without realizing at all what it was, I would have been floored. But I still was, watching it for the first time years ago. I still was surprised at the ending, even though I knew what happens. But that ending, man, just whenever I get to that, just so fucking crazy. That makes it so completely memorable. But like I said, we got the opening credits with the dialogue playing while the music's playing. And then we get this shot of the camp sign, and it says "for sale." And I'm wondering, does that mean this takes place after the end of this movie, or does it take place before, like the opening credits? Like, it doesn't give an actual answer to that, because it said "for sale, Camp Arawak." Does that mean it's shut down because of all the murders, or does that mean it's had some past before this? Like, I don't get what that means. The "for sale" at the beginning of the movie, but then we get the opening kill. The opening kills, which is not, it's connected to the rest of the movie, but the rest of the movie is all taking place in one time. And the beginning of the movie before this is an interesting scene. And again, it pulls off that humor and horror really well. Because it starts out with these two kids, Angela and Peter, and their dad, and this other guy who you, and I'll spoil this now, this part, like their dad and the other guy who's the dad's like boyfriend, like they're all like just out on the water, like the dad and Angela and Peter are out on the water, and the boyfriend of the dad is like talking to him, saying, "Come on, we gotta go do blah blah blah," and I like the fact that they mention, like Angela and Peter, they mention Ricky and Aunt Martha already, which I'll mention after this scene because they don't come in till the end of this scene. But I thought that was funny that they referenced them already because Angela is like, so is Ricky and Aunt Martha coming? And he's like, no, they've got to do something else, like they're busy. But I liked how that pointed out these characters that will be extremely important in the next scene. After this, but it cracks me up because they're just having fun. Like the dad and the two kids are having fun, and then there's these two teenagers with a girl behind them water skiing on a boat, and the girl's like messing with the boy sitting there like, oh, I can run this. Like my dad's got a boat bigger than this, and then the guy's like, okay, come on, and then the girl who's water skiing on the back of the boat, her overacting is awesome because she's already freaking out before anything even happens. And then the girl in the front of the boat with the boy, she starts the boat to get it to run. She messes it up to where it starts speeding right at Angela and Peter and the dad. And I love the fact that the dad and Angela and Peter don't move. They just stand there, swim there in position where the boat flies at them, which again, it gives a campy like fun with it, like with scenes like that. And the girl's just freaking out who's jet skiing, like she's screaming like, no, we're gonna hit somebody. And then like you see the boat fly up, and then the boyfriend of the dad over on the ground is just like, John, like he says it in such a dramatic way. And then the girl who's water skiing is in the water and screaming, oh my god, we killed them, somebody help the people, fuck. And she just starts like freaking, like it makes sense in the situation that she's freaking out at these, because these people just got hurt, but her overacting is so hilarious. Like she does it to where it's so silly, so over the top, and I laugh every time with that girl. She's hilarious. And then you see the shot of the dad's boyfriend like looking out after he says John, like is everybody okay? And then the dad is just floating in the water dead, and then you see one kid, you see the back of their head, so you don't see much else. You just see a kid swimming, and then the other kid's life jacket pops back up, and then the scene ends. So that one kid died, apparently, and that's all we get for the explanation for now. And then we get 8 years later, where one of the best scenes in the whole movie, with the Ricky character and the Aunt Martha character and Angela. Angela is the survivor of those events at the beginning of the movie. Now, this Desiree Gould is her name, who plays Aunt Martha. This woman is awesome. And like I already mentioned about the girl who's water skiing and her acting was over the top, just hold the fuck on and listen to this Aunt Martha. This character is fucking insane, and I love it. The acting is over the top in this movie, and it's hilarious, and it doesn't ever not work for me. It's always got such a fun silliness to how this character acts, or to how these characters act to each other with their overacting. And Aunt Martha, the opening scene, or after the kill, it opens 8 years later, and Aunt Martha's like, come on, kids, you're going to be late for the bus. And then she always does this where she just goes, oh, I would hope they would not be late. Like, she says stuff like that where, like, she reacts in such a silly way. And then Angela and Ricky come down, and Angela is really quiet. She doesn't speak. And then Aunt Martha just... every line she says is gold. She's literally the best. and she says like to Ricky, "I packed your lunches. And wasn't that nice of me?" And then Ricky just says, "Are there any chips in here?" And then she just says, "Why, of course. I believe there's a whole bag." Like the way she speaks is so hilarious. Like it works so well in terms of being just so fun and so memorable. Like she's got such a memorable performance. And apparently in the commentary for this, it didn't. Felissa Rose and Jonathan Tiersten, Angela and Ricky, like they said in the commentary, like Desiree just did that kind of thing, like she just talked like that, and it wasn't like it was implied that Robert Hiltzik didn't say act over the top. I think Desiree just did that, and that made her great. Like she's such a great actress in this movie. You can call it bad acting, but I thought it was great overacting on purpose. Like you knew she was trying to be this silly and over the top, and it works incredibly well. And then there's a line where she says, I think I've forgotten something," and then Ricky's just like, "What?" And then she said, "Oh, I think I'll remember because I had something tied on my finger," and like she has like a little tie on her finger. And then she goes, "Oh, wait, right here." And then she goes and gets their physicals, which, again, if you already know the twist, I'm not going to spoil it here, but I'm going to give the hints to the twist. Because she says, "Here's your physicals," like to Angela and Ricky, and she says, "Now don't ever tell anybody where you got those. Or remember, don't tell anybody where you got them. Even though they know I'm a doctor." Like if she's a legit doctor, that's scary. That this overacting person is a doctor. Like that's hilarious, and it plays into the ending with that character. But man, and then like Ricky and Angela are going out to get on the bus for camp. And then they say goodbye, Mom, and then she has a reaction that she just goes, "Goodbye, dear," and like she just stares out the door at Ricky and Angela in a creepy way, and not in a creepy way in which she overacts. It's just a creepy way where there's something up with her. Like there's something darker with her. Like all the lines before were over the top silly, but that last line where she says "Goodbye, dear," like that way she said that implied something ominous is going on. And she plays in the ending, so whenever I get to the ending, I'll bring her back into the conversation. But man, she's incredible. Desiree Gould, I love her in this movie. And then we get to the camp where you just have all the kids running around, and Robert Earl Jones, James Earl Jones' dad, is in this movie, which is funny. He plays one of the like cooks, and it has the scene where they all are getting off the bus, and Artie, this perverted character who is again kind of over the top, but not like Desiree Gould was, but like he's this literal like pedophile. Like he is saying all this shit around all these cooks, like where I come from we call them baldies, and then Robert Earl Jones will say to Artie like, "Oh, they don't understand a thing of what you're saying," and then he says something like, "They're never too young to understand," and then like it cracks me up because Robert Earl Jones just goes ha ha, and then he just walks away, like he thinks it's so funny that this guy's a pedophile. Like he doesn't care, just like, okay, that's silly, but he's a pedophile. Just pointing that out there. But that makes it have a good charm, because it's just like these people don't even care that like this guy's being this gross to kids. That cracks me up. And then like it shows Ricky and Angela like kind of getting ready like at camp, and again Angela's really silent, and if you know what happens at the ending, you know, but like she's so silent and there's some mystery to her, and it really, like Felissa Rose, I think this might have been her first like movie. I think it said it was, well, did it even say introducing? I don't remember now. But Felissa Rose in this movie is legitimately creepy. The way that she stares at people actually is really effective. It actually gets under my skin, because she has this look. She has big eyes as a kid. Like she just stares, has this blank expression. It is scary. It actually is really effective. And she eventually talks in the movie, but but even when she doesn't, like, it still is effective how she just stares and stares at somebody, doesn't even say a word. This is a really great performance from her. Like, she's legitimately creepy and scary, and I really love her in this movie too. And then Ricky meets up with the Judy character, who Judy is just, these kids are like fucking like 12 or 13, and Judy's acting like a slut. Like, she's just like playing with all these guys and just like trying to make Ricky jealous. Like, these 13-year-old kids, she's acting like she's a big shot. Like, she wants to be with every boy. So like all this through the whole movie, whether with Angela or Ricky, she'll always try to one up them. Like, she's just so popular. Like, she's just a stuck up bitch like character, but this actress is really good as this character. Like, I liked her too. Like, she's really fun as well. She's a really unlikable character, but her performance is really likable, if that makes sense. And then we get to that scene where it's at the girls' cabin, where Angela's there and Judy's there and all the girls. And I love this line. It's just so hilarious. This is such a quotable movie, but the line where Meg, one of the like higher ups, comes in, she walks right in and she says, "All right, everyone, pay attention. The name's Meg." And then it zooms in on her face, and she just says M-E-G. And it's just really funny because it's just like it purposely did a zoom in or like a cut where her face is closer to the camera, and it's just so hilarious that she had to spell out her 3-letter name. That's awesome. Just the humor in this is so funny. And then she says like, "Oh, this is how it's gonna work at camp and whatever." And then Judy's like unpacking her stuff, and Angela, a couple beds away, is just staring at her, blankly, creepily staring at her. And the ominous music plays, and it's great. And Judy's just like, "What are you looking at?" Like, in that reaction. And Angela just doesn't say anything. And then she's just like, "Are you queer or something? Like, what's wrong with you?" Like, she just says that to Angela, and Angela, again, just no reaction. Again, that's just, it's funny, but it's creepy at the same time, because Felissa Rose is legitimately scary. Like, how she stares at people. And it is funny because of Judy's reactions. Like, "What are you looking at?" Like, that, it's got a great sense of humor, and it's really actually scary. I really think that it's effective in both humor and horror in this movie. And then it kind of just shows more kids at the camp, like in the big like auditorium room where they're eating, and Angela hasn't eaten anything, hasn't said anything, so Judy and Meg are kind of getting more and more like bitchy to her. And then this one guy came in, I forgot what his name is, but like he comes in and grabs Angela and just says like, "Angela, you want to go see if Artie can make you anything else? Artie the pervert." So she goes in there with that guy, and he says to Artie like, "Oh, she wants something else to eat besides this food." And then Artie just says in a sexual way like, "Oh, I think we could find something for her to have." And then that guy just leaves her with Artie. And then Ricky comes up to Meg and says like, "Where's Angela?" and blah, blah, blah. And then Artie takes Angela in the back room. And then Angela just staring, just no words, nothing, just staring at Artie. And Artie just says something like, I've got something I know you'll like." And then he starts unbuttoning his pants. And if Ricky didn't come in and save her, because Ricky ran in right after that and said, "What are you doing?" And then Artie slammed him against the wall and said like, "Don't you tell anybody," to Ricky. If Ricky didn't go in and save Angela, she might have just been raped right there or molested. Like, that just fucked up. But I love the fact that she didn't, of course. It's great that she didn't. But I love the fact that this sets up the first kill. Well, actually he doesn't even die, but it sets up the first kind of kill, because Artie, like, after Ricky and Angela leave, there's a point of view where somebody is stalking Artie. He's stalking Artie in the kitchen, and it's good tension. But again, the humor is great because we've got this, for some God knows why reason, but we've got a fucking pot the size of like a shelf on the oven. Like, it's literally the size of, like, the shelf up here to the floor. Like, it's that big of a pot, like a corn pot they put corn in. And a pot like that just is not a safety thing, like, literally. And it makes sense because the point of view thing happens where, like, somebody goes up behind Artie, pushes him up against the wall or the shelf right where the pot is right underneath him, and he's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Don't push me in there. And then, like, this is so easily avoidable. Artie could have not been seared and burned by this giant pot, but what the killer does is push or pull the chair underneath him, the stool, and then he falls down, but he purposefully grabs the pot, falls down, and burns. You could have avoided that. He literally falls and grabs the pot, and it falls down with him. And I'm like, really? But it's funny, though. And then it's good effects work, because, like, you see, like, his face and his hands getting burned, and he's just screaming, but it goes on for a while. Like, it kind of gets really silly after a little while. But man, that's a good, like, first kill. I mean, he doesn't die, because he gets taken away from searing burns. Like, he doesn't die. But it was so silly. And then I love the fact that this cop comes in to talk to Mel, who's, like, the leader of the camp, and he says, what's the prognosis, officer or doctor? And then he just says, like, he's horribly burned all over. And I'm like, fucking obvious. Like, doctor, really? Like, the guy's burned all over? What? That's so... Again, that line is purposefully like that. I think that, like, a doctor would say he's horribly burned. That's stupid. And then we get this scene where it's the most pointless scene in the movie. I mean, I guess it sets up, like, camp, like, you see camp as a kid. Like, it's just a scene of kids having fun at camp. But it's the scene of Ricky and all the guys playing baseball. It's the most pointless scene in the movie. But, I mean, I guess it does give, like, a sense of, like, how kids are having fun at camp. But it could have been the thing that would most easily be cut out. So that scene was so pointless. But then we get the scene in the dance hall, which is funny because Ricky walks in with this giant-ass cowboy hat, and if you notice, he wears a lot of different hats for no reason in this movie, like randomly. But the cowboy hat's the funniest one because he walks in like a badass wearing a cowboy hat. Like I would have been embarrassed to walk into a place like that wearing a cowboy hat. A giant, like, sombrero-looking cowboy hat. Like, it was a big hat. But that was hilarious. And then Angela, of course, on her own, just in the auditorium, or in the hall, just, like, sitting there, eating a candy bar. And then these two guys go up to her, and they said, Angela, why are you so fucked up? Angela, can't you talk? Aren't you crazy, right, Angela? Ain't you Looney Tunes? Like, these lines are awesome. Like, just, they're so insulting, but it's so funny at the same time. It's like, you can't take it seriously. Like, they just say, how come you're so fucked up? And Angela, of course, never responds. And then the Paul character talks to her, this kid who's friends with Ricky, and he actually gets her to speak, because he talks to her for a while. Angela just listens, she kind of smiles, and then Paul just walks out and says goodbye, or goodnight, and then Angela just goes, goodnight. And I like that she kind of starts having a crush on him, so that's why she started talking. So that was funny. And then we get to another kind of pointless scene where the boys all go skinny dipping, and without the girls. They're like, the girls didn't want to go out in the cold, and then the boys are like, fuck you guys aren't fun anyways, or something stupid like that, and then they go skinny dip. And then one kid stays behind, who I think is the one who made fun of Angela in the dining hall. And he has another girl with her, but he tips the canoe and she swims away, and then he's underneath the canoe. And then the killer just pops up from the backside of their head. On the camera view, it's like right here, but like the backside of their head, and then this kid is right here. And then the killer drowns the kid. And then I love this guy's reaction because there's this pissed off camp counselor who's screaming like, you peckerheads, what are you doing? Like, he's freaking out because, like, the part of the beach looks disgusting because there's, like, crap thrown everywhere. And then he finds the canoe, lifts it up, and the kid is dead. And this is disgusting, and it's awesome effects again, where the kid is just sitting there and he's got his mouth wide open because he's dead and he drowned, and like a snake just climbs out of his mouth. It works really well. So another kid died, or I mean, the first kid died, and the Mel character, who's the leader, is just like, oh, it's just an accident. Like he's trying to deny all this to not have bad publicity on the camp. And then again, the fucking doctor talks to him, and he's like, "From my guess, the boy drowned." And I'm just like, "Are you fucking kidding?" Like, obviously he drowned, idiot. Like, but again, I know those lines are probably there on purpose just to make the silliness of this movie, because this is extremely silly. But I love those lines because they're so stupid and obvious. From my guess, the boy drowned. And then I liked how Paul and Angela kind of give more together, and Paul kisses Angela and it's got that cheesy da-da-da-da music whenever he kisses her, and Angela has no reaction, and then she just says, "I gotta go," and just leaves. And then it kind of, like, it's funny because Paul doesn't think anything of it, and we don't think of it either, the audience, but there's something more sinister with Angela. So then it happens to where it's the next day, and Meg is trying to talk to Angela to bully her, and then Angela just doesn't take any of it and talk. And then Meg gets pissed and starts shaking her, and she says, "Fucking speak to me, you bitch." And like one of the guys, counselors, comes up and like tells her to, like, "You're out of here," like to get out of Angela's face, because like she's just like shaking her around and literally grabbing her and shaking her. And Angela just isn't speaking at all, which makes it more awesome because she just doesn't take any shit. And then it goes to the scene where they're back at the girls' cabin, and this is hint number 2, if you don't know what it is. But hint number 2, Judy and Meg are just pushing Angela, being more of a bully to her, and then Judy says, like, "Hey, Angela, why is it that you don't ever shower with the rest of the girls? Are you queer or something? Have you haven't had your period yet?" Like, she starts saying all this shitty stuff to Angela, and Angela again doesn't respond. But that's hint number 2, and I thought that was a great subtle hint. If you don't know the twist, like it's a cool like you don't know really what's gonna happen with why is there so many weird things with this character. And then the next scene, the next kill is really pretty awesome. Where like there's these kids playing water balloons, and one kid throws a water balloon at Angela, and Ricky gets all mad, of course. And like then after they leave, the one kid goes into the bathroom, and then in the side the window from up top of the bathroom stall, somebody just cuts open with a knife, cuts open the screen, and gets a freaking hornet's nest and throws it in there with this kid and locks him in. And this kid dies from like getting stung by bees. And it's awesome. It's really fucking creepy the way that you see the shot on the ground of like it's like a physical thing. Like they made like this head and put bees all over it in the arm, and it's got big red marks like from where the bees have been stinging it. It is really effective where that kid dies. Just like with the kid who drowned with the snake coming out of his mouth. That's really effective too. Whenever he gets in the stall, and whenever he gets killed in the stall, that's so great. Such brutal effects. Then Mel like talks again, like 2 people died, and he's still denying it, like, "Oh, we're gonna be shut down. We can't tell anybody." And he thinks Ricky is the killer immediately. He goes to Ricky, like, because Ricky keeps going to Angela's aid every time Angela is in trouble, because she always gets in trouble by people and bullied. So Mel starts thinking that Ricky's the killer, which kind of comes out of nowhere, but it kind of fits with the silly like atmosphere this movie has. And then we get the scene with Paul and Angela at the lake, where Paul starts undressing Angela, or unbuttoning her shirt. And then we get this weird-ass scene, which is hint number 3, where Angela and Ricky are laughing, like they're snickering, like at the door at this house, and you see the shot inside, and it's the dad and his boyfriend, like, hugging each other, like holding each other in bed. And they're both laughing at them doing that. And then it shows a scene of Angela and Ricky in a bed pointing at each other. Like, Peter is pointing at Angela, and it keeps doing a fade where it shows like them on the opposite sides of the bed while it spins a 360 camera around the room. And again, that's the third hint, but it's just so it's so odd. And if you didn't know what happens at the end, like you'd be like, what the fuck? Like what does that even mean? It doesn't make any sense, but it does at the end. But then Angela just wakes up from that, like seeing that hallucination and just screams no, and then runs away from Paul. And then it just, I don't know, like that's a cool hint to what really was gonna happen at the end. And then we get the scene where Meg and Judy go after Angela and throw her in the water, and Angela freaks out, flailing, no, don't throw me in the water, please. And they throw her in the water and they get her out of it quick because Angela can't swim. And then these kids throw sand at Angela just to be douchebags. These little kids. And then Ricky, it cracks me because Ricky just says, you fuckers, you fuckers. Like to the little kids. Like that makes it funny, just him yelling that to like under 10-year-olds. Like, you fuckers. Like that cracks me up. And then we realize that Meg and Mel have this another weird ass perverted relationship in this camp where like Artie was that literal pedophile, and then Mel and Meg this under 20-year-old and Mel this like 60-year-old guy are just gonna have a relationship together, and that's just what, like, why? It's just so weird. And then Meg goes to take a shower to get ready for her big night with the old man. And then she gets stabbed through the wall in the shower, and that's really great. That's a great kill, really effective. That's a really good one. I just liked it, went through the wall to get her. Like, that's awesome. And then the kids, those little kids that threw sand at Angela, are out on a going out into the woods for the night with one of the counselors. And then the counselor comes back and finds them hacked up. And that's cut out from some version of this movie, apparently, because literally, like, little kids were hacked up, hatcheted to death. You don't see it, but you just see, like, their sleeping bags all bloody and hatched up, and that's... I can see why that's cut in a lot of ways, but that makes it more effective that it's in the movie. Because it's just like, man, this killer, whoever it is really good at being evil. But then Mel finds Meg dead because she didn't come to the social, and he swears that Ricky did it. He's like, I'm gonna get him, Meg, I'm gonna get him, I'm gonna kill him for you. Like, it's so silly. And then fucking Judy, she gets killed next, and she gets a bad death because she gets like a pillow in her face, and like then she gets like this hair curling iron or hair curler, and like it doesn't show it, but it's implied that like the killer puts the hair curler in her vagina, gets like a hot ass hair curler. I don't know how hot those get because I've never used one, of course, but I wonder if that would have actually killed somebody or just like, I don't know how hot those get, because if they're too hot they'd burn your hair off, so I don't know. But that was a gnarly kill. That was awesome, and it's great to see Judy go, because Judy just, man, she, like, her performance, I really like the performance of the character, but she's such a horrible person, this character in the movie. And then freaking Mel goes and fights Ricky, like, he beats him up, and then he gets up, and then he's at like this targeting place where there's targets everywhere for arrows, and then you see he's looking at somebody off camera. He says, "You, how could it be you?" And then like he gets impaled through the neck with an arrow. And that's a gnarly kill too. And I forgot, it said in the commentary how they did that, but it literally is one shot, just goes right through his neck, and it looks so real. It's creepy, honestly, but it works really well. And then I love the fact that we get toward the end, because almost a lot of people have died, and then Paul and Angela go out to the lake together. And then this cop comes back who was there earlier, but this time the cop, from the first time, he had a mustache, and this time he's got a tape mustache on his face because apparently he couldn't get a mustache quick enough to come back for the movie. That's awesome. But then Paul and Angela, like I said, go to the lake, and Angela, like, they're there, and like Paul says like, we're gonna swim, and then Angela says, take her clothes off. And he says, all right. And then Angela slowly starts doing it. And then it cuts away to like these counselors finding all the bodies, and they go to hear, they hear like a noise. They hear Angela humming. And this is the end of the movie, but they hear Angela like humming by the lake. They go up to her, and she's holding like Paul in her arms. And then we get the flashback, which completely gives the fourth hint and gives us the twist of the movie, where Aunt Martha says to Peter, who has a bandage over his head now, she is so crazy in which she already had a boy named Ricky, and you didn't see who lived at the beginning of the movie, if it was Angela or Peter. Just one of the kids with a life jacket lived and the other one died. And then you see the fact that Aunt Martha, she had a boy already, she had Ricky, so Peter was the one who survived, but she gave Peter a sex change and called him Angela. And then it cuts back to the counselor seeing Angela gets up, Paul's head falls out of her arm, she killed Paul, and she stands up, or, well, I can't say she stood up, it stood, well, that sounds insulting to say it, because it's like, Angela was born a boy, Peter was born a boy, but then Aunt Martha gave him the sex change, so now he's kind of a girl, but he has a penis. And that shot with the scary music from the beginning, Angela making the growling noise, full frontal shot, you see it like she has a penis. And then they're like, oh my god, she's a boy. And then she just has the low growl, and then it ends with the shot of her face making that creepy growl, and it plays this awesome song. Just What I've Been Looking For, I think, which is a great song. Like, it's awesome for this movie. Creepy, awesome. But that twist ending where you realize that she's a boy, I would have never, even with the hints, I would have not completely guessed that if I didn't know, but I knew the twist before going into this movie when I saw it years ago, but oh my god, like that's one of the most hilariously creepy endings, and that is one of the most shocking endings I've ever seen. Whether you think it's good or bad, I think it's literally like Psycho, like the twist in Psycho that everybody knows now. Whenever that came out, people did not know that's what would happen, and that happened. In this movie, it happened too. But in this movie, it's so odd and strange. Like, you had a transsexual killer, and it was like a 13-year-old kid. That just blows me away, and how they got away with that, and how hilarious it is. The reactions to the counselor saying like, "Oh my God, she's a boy," and just her growling at them. That is an incredible ending. Just incredible, and how insanely silly but creepy that is. Because it's creepy with her growl, or her low growl is pretty creepy, but that just is incredible. Just that ending blows me away every time. And this movie is just so fun, so silly, but it actually has so many scary moments in it too, like thrilling moments. The kills are gruesome and gory, and there's a lot of moments where this humor just works so well, and it doesn't feel like it feels like one of the perfect examples of a horror comedy, where it really has a great sense of humor for itself that made it memorable. And the ending, of course, made it memorable too, but the humor made it incredibly memorable. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I could say about Sleepaway Camp. Just, it blows me away every time. I love it so much. I've seen it dozens of times. I've listened to the commentaries on it. I think I've heard all the commentaries on the Blu-ray, because I've got the Scream Factory edition, which is a must-buy if you love this movie. It's so cool. And of course I've got the ones for 2 and 3 as well, but the first one is just one of my favorite slashers, one of my favorite horror movies. Like, it just works so incredibly well. I know a lot of people either love it or hate it, but man, this is one I completely love, and it's just, to me, it's one of the best.